But Casma's days as an archaeological sensation were numbered. Just as it was reaching the height of its fame, Ruth Shadi found her mysterious hills. And they would transform everything. Ruth went back to the site again and again, and she took with her a team of students and archaeologists. Their first task? To get a rough idea of how old Caral, as the site was known, actually was. For this, they needed to find pottery, because archaeologists are skilled at dating sites just by the style of the pottery they find. But after weeks of searching, they found nothing.
For 2 months we looked for pottery. Every night we asked each other if anybody had found any, but nobody had. We were completely baffled.
This was very puzzling. Every early civilization is littered with pottery, even Casma, but not this one. So they looked for something else you'd expect to find in a civilization: metal tools. But the only tools they found were made not of metal, but stone. There was only one conclusion. This was a civilization at an extraordinarily early stage.
Little by little, as we analyzed our findings, we began to realize that this place was completely different to anything we had seen before. And it was much older than we'd expected.
But how old? They'd still found nothing they could date, and so they decided to dig inside Caral's biggest structures, the pyramids. This was a massive undertaking. The site was enormous and the pyramids huge. Ruth needed help, so she recruited the army. In their way lay thousands of tons of sand, rubble and stones, built up over millennia. It would have to be shifted, and so as to avoid any damage to the original structures, it could only be done one bucket at a time. Gradually, they caught glimpses of what lay beneath. Some of the original stones, traces of plaster, paint not seen for thousands of years, a series of staircases, and the wall at the front of the pyramid. There was no doubt these pyramids would have required craftsmen, architects, a huge workforce, and leaders, all the trappings of civilization. And then, at last, one of her team found what they were looking for. Sticking out of the foundations of one of the buildings were reeds. These reeds had been woven into what are called shikra bags, and the bags clearly had been used to carry the stones from the mountains. It's a technique found only in the very oldest buildings in Peru. Reeds can be carbon dated. It meant that at last Ruth could find out just how old Caral was. But she lacked the facilities to do it herself, and so she sought help from abroad. And so, last year, Jonathan Haas and Winifred Kramer were invited to the site. What they saw stunned them.
It was the most incredible assemblage of archaeological sites that we had ever seen anywhere in the world. It was literally one of those double take moments when your mouth drops open and you go, my God, I've never seen anything like that in my life.
They had no doubt Caral was a site of potentially huge importance. It made their dating of the shikra bags all the more crucial. They took 12 samples to the University of Illinois for testing. If the bags were from about 1400 BC, Caral would certainly be an important discovery, but younger than Casma. Dates around 2000 BC would make it the oldest city in the Americas. Dates any earlier seemed inconceivable. 3 months later, the results arrived.
I was at work and Jonathan called me and he said, they are absolutely great. They are all early.
The bags were dated at 2600 BC. Caral was nearly 5,000 years old as the pyramids of Egypt, older than anyone had thought possible.
I was virtually in hysterics for 3 days afterwards.
Caral was 1,000 years older than Casma. It meant Casma could not be